A very warm welcome to Africa. Good morning. We are broadcasting the news making headlines across Africa. My name is Aina Raizakoya. Alongside me is Glenora Shipura.
Now, today is World Book Day. World Book Day has a strong connection with schools and is used worldwide to allow school children to engage with reading and their favorite books. It is not just a day to indulge a love of books, but also a day where children and young people can gain access to books. Now, let's have a look at this video on World Book Day.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, in our top story, 5 Sudanese footballers drowned in the Nile. 5 Sudanese footballers died on Sunday when their boat sank in the Nile north of capital Khartoum, Sudanese news agency reported. It said the players, members of the 3rd Division Team Navigation, were on their way to play a match when their boat sank. The agency did not state how the vessel sank, but said the entire team was on board. The players were traveling from the city of Shedi in the River Nile State in the northern Sudan to the city of Al-Mata to play against Algeria in the 3rd Division League. The boat accidents are not new in the Nile. Passengers ferries are often old and not safe.
Now, in our next story, Ukrainians say they are fighting on in the southern city of Kherson. Now, Ukrainians said they were fighting on the first sizable city Russia claimed to have seized, while Moscow stepped up its lethal bombardment of major population centers that its invasion forces has so far failed to tame. Now, with Moscow having failed in its aim of swiftly overthrowing Ukraine's government, after nearly a week, Western countries are worried that it is switching to new, far more violent tactics to blast its way into cities it had expected to easily take. Now, the most intensive attack has struck Kharkiv, a city of 1.5 million people in the east, whose center has been turned into a bombed-out wasteland of ruined buildings and debris. Now, the roof of a police building in the center of the city collapsed as it was engulfed in flames. Authorities said 21 people were killed by shelling and airstrikes in the city in the past 24 hours and 4 more on Wednesday morning. Now, Russia said it had sent delegates for a second round of peace talks in Belarus near the border, but Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia needs to stop bombing if it wanted to negotiate peace.
In our next story, SA ambassador safe after fleeing Kyiv. South Africa's ambassador to Ukraine, Andrei Grunewald, is safe after fleeing conflict-torn Kyiv. On Tuesday, Grunewald, his family and other diplomats fled the capital city, which has been rocked by heavy Russian fire. On Wednesday, Department of International Relations and Cooperation Acting Director General Clayson Monyela said Ambassador Andrei Grunewald is safe, and yes, he is out of Kyiv. Monyela declined to comment on whether Grunewald managed to leave Ukraine. In a television interview, Grunewald said he intended to flee either to Romania or Moldova.
In our next story, Libya's parliament backs new government as crisis deepens. Now, Libya's parliament approved a new government on Tuesday, but the incumbent prime minister rejected the vote and vowed to not cede power, raising the risk of fighting among armed factions or territorial partition between rival administrations. Now, the parliament speaker's declaration of Fatih Bashaha as prime minister after a televised vote aggravates a power struggle with the administration of Abdul Hamid al-Biba, who was installed through a UN-backed process last year. Now, opposing armed groups have mobilized in the capital, Tripoli, over recent weeks, and foreign forces, including from Turkey and Russia, that have backed rival warring factions remain in the country. Now, whether the crisis will kindle armed conflict remains unclear, but it leaves Libya without a unified government, with the main political and military forces bitterly divided and with no clear path forward.
Gold mining threatens existence of Amani Nature Forest Reserve. Gold mining activities in the Amani Nature Forest Reserve is threatening the extinction of its natural resources and water sources. ANFR, a designated environment and forest reserve located in the Usambara catchment forest, supplies water to more than 200,000 people living in the Tanga region. According to the Tanzania Forest Service Agency Chief Conservator Master Fikiri Maimba, over 20 hectares of the natural forest cover has been destroyed by artisanal miners in the recent years. And that is all for the first page of your news stories. We'll be right back after this commercial ad. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning. Now let's get into our second batch of news stories. Now, U.S. sanctions for South Africans over alleged Islamic State links. Now, the United States has sanctioned 4 South Africans it says have led Islamic State cells in the country or facilitated support for branches elsewhere, including by transferring funds or procuring weapons. Now, it added that ISIS was attempting to expand its influence in Africa through large-scale operations in areas where government control is limited, relying on local fundraising schemes such as theft, extortion, kidnapping, or ransom, alongside support from the ISIS hierarchy. Now, while South Africa has faced relatively limited terror threats on its own turf, security experts say networks in the country help provide finance and logistics for groups operating elsewhere on the continent, such as in neighboring Mozambique, where the United States recently designated an insurgent group as a branch of Islamic State. The 4 individuals Washington sanctioned were accused of helping raise funds for Islamic State by running kidnap for ransom or extortion operations, recruiting and training members, and acquiring things like weapons or safe houses.
UN launches 1.7 billion appeal to aid refugee exodus in Ukraine. UN Secretary Antonio Guterres says the last UN data indicated that 677,000 people have fled Ukraine since February the 24th, the beginning of the current Russian military operation in the country. We must help Ukrainians help each other through this terrible time, the UN chief insisted, adding that electricity and water supply have been disrupted, roads have been damaged or destroyed by bombs, and food and medicine were in short supply in some areas. In Geneva, UN Emergency Relief Chief Martin Griffiths explained that the purpose of the call for immediate humanitarian funding was to help people inside Ukraine, including those internally displaced as well as those seeking shelter beyond its borders.
Now, in our next story, cases of typhoid fever detected in Namibia. Namibia's Health Minister Kolumbi Shangula on Wednesday announced that the country has recorded 3 new cases of typhoid fever, a potentially fatal bacterial infection that can lead to a high fever, diarrhea, and vomiting. Now, Shangula said the first case was detected and confirmed on 27 January in Windhoek's Goriankap area. Now, following the report of the first case, 9 contacts, including 3 close contacts, were traced and tested for typhoid fever, 2 of which tested positive, he said. Now, he said the detection of 3 cases does not mean there is an outbreak of typhoid fever in the country. Now, according to the World Health Organization, WHO, a disease outbreak is the occurrence of a disease cases in excess of normal expectancy. So far, the reported cases do not meet the WHO definition to be classified as an outbreak, he said.
Nigerian Senate rejected diaspora vote, special seats for women. Nigeria's Senate on Tuesday voted to reject changes to the constitution to allow citizens living abroad to vote in national elections, while a provision to allocate special seats for women to increase their political representation failed to pass. Voters in Africa's most populous nation will go to the polls to elect a new president and parliament in February 2023. Hopes that the Nigeria's diaspora would take part were dashed when only 29 senators out of the 92 present supported the provision. For a constitutional bill to pass, it requires the support of at least two-thirds of the 109 member states' senates. Nigeria's diaspora population was estimated at 1.7 million as the 2020 by the United Nations Department for Economic and Social Affairs. Another provision to create special seats for women in the national and state assemblies was rejected by a majority of senators.
Now, in our next story, zero daily COVID-19 deaths in South Africa in past 48 hours. Now, South Africa has recorded no deaths linked to COVID-19 in 48 hours, a first since May 2020 for the country, officially the most affected on the continent, the country's health authorities announced on Tuesday. Now, the National Institute of Communicable Diseases announced the news in its daily count of cases reported from across the country, triggering cautious optimism. Now, the last time the country had no deaths from COVID-19 was on May 12, 2020. We observed that hospitals have almost no more COVID cases. Shabir Mahdi, a vaccine specialist at the University of Witwatersrand, told AFP. Now, at least 80% of the densely populated province of Gauteng, where Johannesburg is located, has already been infected with COVID, a proportion, he says, roughly mirrors that prevailing in the country. Now, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, Mozambique, and Eswatini have not reported any COVID-related deaths in the past 24 hours, even though these neighboring countries benefit from less developed health monitoring. Now, South Africa has lost about 100,000 people to COVID and has nearly 3.6 million people infected.
All right, those have been our stories, and after the break we will be talking about the typhoid fever that broke out in Windhoek. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Now, Namibia's Minister of Health and Social Services, Dr. Kalombi Shangula, yesterday announced that Namibia has confirmed 3 cases of typhoid fever in Windhoek. It follows after South Africa also recently confirmed an outbreak of this disease. Now, typhoid fever is a bacterial infection that can spread throughout the body, affecting many organs. It is transmitted through food and water contaminated by feces and urine of an infected person. Now, in this episode of Seek on the YouTube channel Seeker, typhoid fever is explained. Let's have a look.
Hi, I'm Ritika Samadar, the Chief Dietitian for Max Healthcare. Today we are going to talk about diet in typhoid. Typhoid is very, very common disease, specifically in the metropolitan cities where people are usually eating outside. It's a foodborne disease. Eating healthy, eating safe and hygienic food can actually prevent you from getting typhoid. But once you've got typhoid, diet also plays a very, very important role in recovering and preventing the reoccurrence of typhoid, which is also very common. So one thing which you have to remember in typhoid is that eat a very, very clean, or what we call a safe and hygienic food. What it means is try and avoid eating outside, especially if you've got typhoid. Try and eat simple ghar ka khana, what we call, which is not too oily, not very spicy, which is very, very important in typhoid. The second thing is hydration is the key for recovery. So plenty of liquids. When I say hydration, it does not mean only water. It means different kind of fluids which has sodium and different electrolytes. So nimbu pani, naral pani, your juices, your chaach, buttermilk are an excellent source to hydrate yourself. So hydrate well during your episodes of typhoid when you get very high fever, and you feel much better if you hydrate yourself well. The third important thing during typhoid is that you need to take a good amounts of protein, because it's a very catabolic disease. It really breaks down your muscles. So make sure that you're eating good amounts of protein. When I talk about protein, look for lean or easy to digest protein. So simple things like having washed dals, the so-called dhuli hui dals, or probably you can have some nuts once in a while. You can have dahi, which is very, very good. Milk, sometimes people do get a little bit lactose intolerance, but if you're able to digest milk, you can even have milk. The other sources of proteins which are very, very good during typhoid is like your eggs are very good. You can have lean proteins like fish. Mutton, chicken might not be digested during the acute phase. But remember, do not forget your proteins, because over a period of time, you tend to lose a lot of muscle mass, and that causes weakness and also in certain cases, reoccurrence in typhoid. So what we talked about the diet in typhoid is simple things: eat a normal, healthy, balanced food, preferably made at home. Avoid eating outside because that's a source of infection for you. Hydrate yourself well by having a lot of fluids. And last and very important is to have a good amounts of protein, preferably the proteins which are easily digestible. And that will help you to cure your typhoid in a few days or weeks.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to cross over to the House of Stone, where Talent Kore has the stories on the ground. Good morning, Talent. How are you?
Good morning, Aina. I'm all right. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Now, we understand that the police have accused the ruling ZANU-PF party for perpetrating the weekend violence in Kwekwe, which left 2 opposition Citizen Coalition for Change supporters dead and 17 others injured, with 8 in critical condition.
Well, on Sunday, there was violence at a rally where Nelson Chamisa was addressing his party leaders, his party supporters, which is the Citizens Coalition for Change. So apparently there was violence, and the police have since accused the ruling party, ZANU-PF, of perpetrating the weekend violence in Kwekwe. The ZANU-PF activists carrying machetes, spears, and other weapons reportedly disrupted CCC party leader Nelson Chamisa's speech before assaulting his supporters at a rally. However, ZANU-PF spokesperson Christopher Mchangwa disowned the youth and accused the police of working in cohorts with the opposition party to fabricate allegations against the ruling party. So the ruling party is distancing itself from the whole fiasco and is accusing the police of working with the opposition party to fabricate lies that ruling party ZANU-PF youth were behind the violence in Kwekwe on Sunday.
I see. Now, in your next story, the Zimbabwean government evacuates 118 from Ukraine. Can you tell us more?
government on Tuesday said that it had evacuated 118 Zimbabwean students from Ukraine whose air tickets were being processed to enable them to return home. Last week, government had said that it was issuing clearance letters to rescue thousands of Zimbabweans caught up in the Russia-Ukraine war to ensure their safe passage to neighboring countries. Of the 118 students, 28 have been evacuated to Romania, 15 to Hungary, 26 to Slovakia, and 49 to Poland. So addressing a post-cabinet briefing, Information Minister Monica Mchanga said that she would like to reassure the nation that the government was taking necessary steps to evacuate students in Ukraine, and she also said that Zimbabwean missions in Berlin and Moscow were facilitating for the evacuation mission. So they are going to be paying for the tickets of those that are stuck in Ukraine to go to neighboring countries, and they will make their passage back home to Zimbabwe after they have been evacuated from Ukraine.
All right, the government has said underutilized land will be repossessed and redistributed to people on the waiting list during the ongoing land audit to flush out multiple farm owners. Please tell us about this.
So farms allocated to indigenous farmers during the land reform program are undergoing an extensive audit which seeks to assess how land is being utilized. So the audit is in its third and final phase, and the Land, Agriculture, Water, Fisheries and Rural Development Deputy Minister said that possession of multiple farms was against government's policy, and that multiple farm ownership is against government policy, which allows one farm per family. So through the land audit, the government has been able to identify multiple farm owners, and they are taking those farms to other people who are on the waiting list so that they can use it for other needs. So they are saying that no family is allowed to have many farms. Each family should have one farm. So now they are taking those farms back and they are distributing them to other people who have been on the waiting list for years.
All right, Talent Kore, thank you very much for bringing us the news in Zimbabwe. We look forward to chatting to you again this week.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now, police in the northern regions have reinforced its commitment to fight crime with the return of the chopper. Now, the chopper has been out of service for over a year. Now, the chopper will assist the police in Omusati, Ohangwena, Oshana, and Oshikoto to fight the crime from the air. Now, Oshana Police spokesperson Inspector Thomas Ayambo also informed the public that the police has also acquired a canine sniffing dog to assist the police to fight the drugs in the region. Now, the dog will be used in community and roadblock patrols. Let's have a look at this video.
Now we are going, it's something called the terrain search. We are going that side.
the cocaine? Cocaine wing, it's in place, everything is ready. You also have your K9. What is your message to would-be criminals in the Fauna and regions?
Yeah, my message to the criminals is that it's good. They have to get away of the mind of committing any type of crime here, because now we are reinforced. If I'm talking about the shopper, wherever you are going to hide, either in the bush or you are trying to run away with a vehicle, the shopper is having a speed. I don't think you will be managed to go so far will get you immediately before you reach your destination. So it's better you stop any type of criminal you are thinking of doing, because we will not have time to waste, but we will only have time to get you and then bring you to book.
Inspector,
Yes.
just one more question. So now that the chopper is for all of the northern regions, where is it going to be situated? Where is it going to be parked? Where is it going to stay 24/7? Here
Yes.
at this airstrip.
Yeah, as you can see here, the shopper is here. It's based here in Oshana, Oshakati airstrip. So the offices, they are here. As you can see, there's a hangar where it's used to park, accommodation for the pilots and stuff. So it will departure from here. As I said, it is very fast. We are talking about 90 kilometers to Tapi, but it will take about 20 minutes. It's already there, and then it will assist on the other side.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now let's take a look at our economic news stories. Now, oil price spike could prompt demand. Now, soaring Brent crude oil prices are tracking the same path as in 2007 to 2008, when they hit a record of 150 a barrel before demand destruction kicked in and prices crashed in a global recession. Analysis by Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group shows. Now, Brent crude oil hit 113.02 on Wednesday, its highest since June 2014, as supply disruption fears mounted after hefty sanctions on Russian banks in response to the intensifying Ukraine conflict. Now, a coordinated release of 60 million barrels of oil from strategic reserves by International Energy Agency member countries was agreed on Tuesday, but failed to calm spiking prices. Now, oil inventories in the developed world have been steadily decreasing in recent months amid a sharp post-pandemic demand recovery.
Kenya commits to strengthening regional infrastructure to boost intra-Africa trade. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta on Monday committed to strengthening a regional infrastructure in order to boost intra-African trade. Kenyatta, in a speech read on his behalf by James Macharia, the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works, told a Continental Forum in Nairobi, the Kenyan capital, that his government will continue to build road networks to link the Northern Transport Corridor that connects landlocked countries in East Africa to Kenya's port of Mombasa. Macharia stressed that Kenya has also prioritized the development of Lamu Port South Sudan-Ethiopia Transport Corridor project that will provide an alternative route for the movement of cargo and passengers between Kenya and its northern neighbors.
Now, in our next story, we're in Tanzania. Now, World Bank projects Tanzania's economy to grow up to 5.5%. Now, the World Bank is projecting that Tanzania's economy will expand between 4.5% and 5.5% this year. Now, this is almost in line with the projections by the Ministry of Finance and Planning, which put Tanzania's economic growth estimates in 2022 at 5.2%. Now, through the growth projection is better than the 4.3% of 2021. It is also lower than the country's long-run potential growth rate of about 6%. Now, in its 17th Tanzania Economic Update, which was released on Tuesday, March the 1st, the World Bank attributes the growth rate to a rollback of coronavirus-related restrictions in many countries, which was boosting tourism and trade. The World Bank Country Director for Tanzania, Dr. Mara Warwick, said data showed that Tanzania's economy was recovering from the adverse effects of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Now, according to her, leading indicators such as cement production, electricity generation, private sector credit, goods and services exports, non-fuel goods imports, telecommunications, mobility and tourist arrivals all improved in 2021, through activity in most sectors remains below pre-pandemic levels. Now, she said that the risks to Tanzania's economic outlook have moderated, but the recovery continues to hinge on external developments and domestic health policies.
Kenya's annual inflation rate falls to 5.8% in February. Kenya's year-on-year inflation slid to 5.8% in February from 5.39% a month earlier, the Statistics Office said on Monday. On a monthly basis, inflation was 0.40% from 0.31% in January, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics said in a statement. It was the lowest inflation rate since October of 2020, mainly due to a slowdown in prices of food and AMP, non-alcoholic beverages, and housing and utilities, helped by a 15% cut on electricity tariff effective as of January. On the monthly basis, consumer prices increased 0.40% up to 0.31% rise in the prior month. Now, coming up next, is your economic indicators. It's almost Friday. I hope you're in good spirit. Speaking of good spirit, let's cross over to Ari Khoukhad, who always has energy, good energy, when he delivers his sports package.
Good day, everyone. It's time for international sports news, and I'll start off with Formula One racing news. And the FIA announced that drivers and officials from Russia and Belarus will be allowed to compete in the 2022 season, and that will be in the neutral capacity. That's specifically got to do with the Haas team. They've got one driver from Russia. His name is Nikita Mazepin, and he's 22 years old, and he drives for the Haas team. And his dad, Dimitri, is also one of the sponsors of the team. And last week in testing in Barcelona, the Haas team took off all the marketing material that was displayed on the vehicle and on the racing car. There's still doubt if Mazepin would be able to compete in the first race. That is the 20th of March, the Bahrain Grand Prix, and that is obviously because of more growing international restrictions that is implied at the moment all over different sporting codes. And now we continue with some tennis news, and it's Novak Djokovic that's in the news, and he announced that he's going to split with his current coach, and that is Marian Vajja. And Vajja has been a coach of Novak Djokovic for the last 15 years. He started coaching Djokovic in 2006 when he was still a junior, and they had a split also in 2017 for that year, for 1 year. Vajja wasn't the coach of Djokovic, but then from 2018 they were coached together, and together they've won 20 major titles. That is Djokovic that won 20 individual men's single titles. Djokovic was recently in the news when he lost his number 1 seeding in the world, and Daniil Medvedev of Russia now is the new number 1. Now we continue international sports news with some boxing news, and it is Tyson Fury that's meant to box again in April. That's against Dylan White, and he's going to defend his WBC title in that fight in April. But news from that is that Tyson Fury said that there's a 100% chance, he confirmed that he's going to retire after the fight in April. That's a bit of a surprise in the boxing world, because everybody thought there's going to be a unification boxing fight that's going to take place. The other fight that's taking place later this year is Anthony Joshua that's fighting against Alexander Usyk, and that is for 3 titles. That's for the WBA, the IBF and the WBO title, and everybody thought that the winner of the 2 fights might fight to see if they can unify all the titles. But the news at the moment is that Tyson Fury said after April, after the Dylan White fight, he's going to retire. And now for some golf news, and it is the magical Kenyan Open golf tournament on the Pro Men's Tour that's going to take place this week, and it is part of the European Tour, so a great event that takes place. It started in 1967, so this year it's the 55th anniversary of that tournament. News from the tournament is that Justin Harding confirmed that he will defend his title. He won in 2021. Also other strong players from South Africa that will be in action is Dean Burmeister and also Daniel van Tonder, and also Zander Lombard. International, there's quite a few players from Europe that will be in action, led by Netherlands, Joost Luiten, and also Oliver Wilson from Britain that will also play in the tournament. One of the local stars, the only Kenyan player that made the cut last year was Samuel Chega, and he's going to be in action again in this tournament. He is one of the 15 Kenyan players that will be in action in the National Open. Kenyan Open starting this week in Nairobi. And now to conclude our sporting news, some cycling news. It is the Cape Epic, one of the Absa Cape Epic, one of the most elite mountain biking events in the world. That's going to start in a few weeks' time in Cape Town and surroundings. And news from the organizers is that 2 of the legends of the tour, that is Karl Platt and Christian Sauser, they will be cycling together in a team this year. Both of them have won the title 5 times since 2006, so the legends of the tour will be very difficult for other riders to beat this strong team in this year's cycling event, the Cape Epic. And that starts on the 20th of March and will finish on the 27th of March, just outside Cape Town. So that's the sporting news for today, and hope you have a great week and a great day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for joining us on today's edition of Africa Good Morning. If you've missed our top stories this morning, here are your headlines. 5 Sudanese footballers are drowned in the Nile. Ukrainians say they are fighting on in a southern city of Kherson. SA ambassador safe after fleeing Kyiv. Libya parliament backs new government as crisis deepens. Gold mining threatens existence of Amani Nature Forest Reserve. Oil price spike could prompt demand slump. And those have been our stories.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Thursday morning. Now, remember that Africa Good Morning is repeated on our website, 1up2, and on our DSTV channel 285 between 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Also, please share your comments regarding our program on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And if you have any photos or videos of happenings in your parts of Africa, please share them with us and we'll gladly put them in our program. I am Glenda Rashipura, and this is Aina Raisa Kweyo.
From all of us here in studio, it's all our love, all our light.